Hello, wonderful folks. I'm Victoria, one of the older members here. I see many of you sharing stories about your terrible mothers-in-law, and I feel bad that you have such toxic people in your lives. I was lucky to have an amazing mother-in-law and always tried to be like her. When my son Daniel introduced me to his girlfriend Melissa, I welcomed her warmly. I'm a middle-class widow with no one but my son, so I was excited to have Melissa join our family. But she wasn't interested in having a relationship with me. I tried to arrange lunches and dinners, but she always declined, saying, "We have different tastes, Victoria. I don't think it would be a good idea for us to go out." I replied, "It's okay, Melissa. I know I'm old, but I can still adapt. Maybe you can teach me a few things. It's not about your age, Victoria. It's about your class. You're just a poor old lady comfortable in a trashy lifestyle. I'm not as cheap as you. I'm just glad Daniel didn't turn out like you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dated him. My parents and I belong to the upper class, and I can't mix with anyone beneath us. I hope you understand that and stop trying to be close to me. It just won't happen." I was devastated. I had hoped to have a good relationship with my daughter-in-law, but she thought I was beneath her. I've lost my husband at a young age and raised my son alone, never remarrying because my husband was everything to me. I remained poor but did my best to give Daniel everything he needed. He became very successful and offered to help me many times, but I always declined because I was content with my life. Despite this, Melissa's words hurt deeply. I stopped trying to connect with her. Daniel and Melissa got married, and things got worse. She started excluding me from their lives and never invited me to their events. I wasn't included in my son's promotion celebration, their anniversaries, birthdays, or other occasions. Daniel expressed his disappointment and told me he was considering separating from her. She had become controlling and didn't want him to stay in touch with me. I advised him not to make any rash decisions and to give her a few more chances. Then Melissa got pregnant with a daughter, and separation was no longer an option. Even after the baby was born, things didn't change. She excluded me from the baby shower and gender reveal and didn't let me meet the baby at the hospital. I never complained because I didn't want to cause trouble. For 6 years, I continued to be excluded from my son's family. I had a great relationship with my granddaughter, but Melissa started to stop that too. I was at my wit's end because I had a feeling Melissa was planning something drastic against me. My suspicions were confirmed when my son showed up at my house looking very down. "Daniel, you don't look well. What's the matter?" I asked. "Mom, I can't do this anymore. I tried everything. I stayed for years, hoping things would change, but it's only getting worse. I can't even talk to you without worrying about starting a fight at home. Is Melissa creating problems again, Daniel? It breaks my heart to see you like this. You don't have to come to see me if it means more trouble for you. Mom, I need you in my life. I don't like how Melissa tries to control me. I've been unhappy in this marriage for a long time. I never thought she'd create a divide between us. I even overheard her talking to her sister about how she planned to stop you from seeing my daughter." I was shocked by Daniel's words, though not entirely surprised. Melissa had been acting very strange, always making excuses when I asked to see my granddaughter. It was already suspicious, and now I was scared I wouldn't get to see my granddaughter anymore. Daniel's words confirmed my fears. "Daniel, did you confront her about this? What did she say?" I asked. "Mom, what would I even say? I'd always had a feeling Melissa was making decisions behind my back. If I question her, she just screams and throws things, which traumatizes our daughter. That's not okay, Daniel. If you don't want your child around me, I would understand and respect your wishes." "Mom, are you crazy? Why would I ever do that? You're the best grandma and mother ever." My daughter would be devastated if her mother went through with this plan. Daniel looked stricken with grief and anger. It broke my heart to see him suffering so much. He had truly made a mistake in choosing his life partner. I didn't want to meddle in my son's relationship, so I kept my mouth shut. I didn't protest when Daniel pulled away because of his wife. I wanted him to be happy, even if that meant not staying in contact with me. Had I known how horrible his situation was, I would have helped him sooner. I comforted him and said, "Daniel, ignoring these problems and staying quiet isn't a solution. You're clearly miserable and need help. You need to stand up to your wife. If she loves you, she will be willing to change." "Mom, that's never going to happen. I've begged her to get help, suggested couples counseling, and tried everything. She doesn't listen. I did my best, but I think it's time for a divorce. I think you should consider all aspects before making a decision. Why don't you go home and try to talk to Melissa one last time? After that, I will support whatever decision you make." Melissa was a difficult woman, but she was still Daniel's wife. Even if she didn't like me, I would have been happy if my son was happy. But it was clear that Melissa was toxic to my son. I believe everyone deserves a last chance before facing consequences. I hoped for their child's sake that she would come to her senses and improve her behavior. My son was desperate for change and said, "I will give her one chance. I'll talk to her and lay down my terms. If she doesn't listen and tries to cut you out again, then I'll file for divorce." Daniel said, "I'll talk to a lawyer and have the paperwork ready. I will only file if and when she messes up. Promise me you'll let me know if that happens." "I promise, Daniel," I replied. "I can see how unhappy you are. I feel so bad for you. I don't want you to live like this. If Melissa doesn't change, it will start affecting my granddaughter too." "That's exactly why I've been considering divorce," Daniel said. "You asked me to give her one chance, so I will. But if she tries to act smart, I won't have any second thoughts." I agreed with Daniel because I didn't want him to be unhappy. If Melissa remained uncooperative and entitled, he deserved to separate from her and live a healthy life. I also wanted my granddaughter to have a healthy home life. So I agreed to tell Daniel if Melissa did something wrong again. Daniel went home and talked to his wife about their problems. To no one's surprise, she blew up at him, calling him names and accusing him of choosing his mother over her. They had a massive fight. However, this time, things were different. Melissa saw that Daniel wasn't backing down or caving into her demands. He was adamant about standing up to her. This was a big blow to her. Later, Daniel told me, "Melissa didn't expect me to stand my ground, Mom. I think that's why she asked for a second chance and promised to improve herself. She even promised not to cut you off from our daughter. It sounds too good to be true. I have a gut feeling she's just lying to pacify me." "I won't lie, Daniel, but I feel the same way. Still, she asked for a chance, so give it to her. Wait and see if things get better." "I'm doing that, Mom, but I'm also talking to my lawyer just in case. I'll get the paperwork done. You don't know Melissa like I do. I can sense she's not going to keep her promise." The weariness in Daniel's voice broke my heart. For years, I had nursed my own wounds caused by Melissa and couldn't bear her behavior. Had no idea how much worse it was for my son. Melissa had completely broken his spirit and refused to acknowledge her wrongs. Daniel was right about her. 2 weeks later, I called Melissa and told her I was coming over. It had been a while since I saw my granddaughter, and I decided it was time to visit. I knew they were out of school for summer break and had plenty of time to hang out with me. Plus, Melissa had promised Daniel not to cut me off from my granddaughter, so I didn't need her permission. She didn't bother to stop me, and I thought maybe she was finally letting go of her controlling behavior. I was dead wrong. When I rang the doorbell, Melissa opened the door but didn't invite me in. What do you want, Victoria? Daniel is not home, and I'm busy right now. I've come to see my granddaughter. It's been a long time, and I miss her. I don't think this is a good idea, Victoria. My daughter is not available right now. Sorry, but you can't see her today. I was taken aback. Daniel had been telling me Melissa was acting well at home, but he didn't trust her completely. I thought he was being paranoid. He was right. Melissa showed no signs of change. Since I was already there, I decided to try again. Melissa, I know my granddaughter is not at school. Her school is on summer break, and I asked Daniel before coming here. He confirmed she is home. Yes, she is home, but you still can't see her. Why not? You've been keeping her away from me for a while now. I don't understand what the problem is. Melissa, you need to tell me why I can't see my own granddaughter. Because I don't want you to see her ever again. She's my daughter, and I get to make those decisions. I've decided not to let her mingle with you anymore. You're not telling me why you're doing this, Melissa. This is unfair and unjust to both me and your daughter. Don't you dare tell me what's right for my daughter. The reason is simple. My child doesn't need to be around a loser like you. Melissa's words were filled with venom. I found myself stepping back in shock. She called me a loser and said my granddaughter shouldn't be associated with me. She made me feel small and unworthy of being in my own family's life. I was humiliated and extremely angry. What the hell does that mean, Melissa? Why are you insulting me like this? What makes you think this is okay? Explain yourself. Do I need to go into details about how unworthy you are of associating with us? You are a poor woman. You have no wealth or social status. Victoria, we have a good reputation in the city. Your son works in a high position, and my daughter goes to the most prestigious private school. I'm also a woman of high status. Our family is simply too above you and your trashy lifestyle. If anyone had ever told me that people could be so cruel to their own family, I wouldn't have believed them. But I was wrong. People like Melissa cared only about material wealth and status. Yes, I was a poor woman and still am. My son had offered me many things, but I declined. I wanted him to have the best life possible without having to shoulder my responsibilities. I didn't care about my lifestyle at all. I was never interested in climbing the social ladder and living in luxury. My simple life was good enough for me, especially since I didn't have to depend on anyone. I had no idea that would become a problem for Melissa. I had no idea my simple life would keep me from my granddaughter's life. I was shocked and hurt. What does my simple life have to do with my granddaughter? I know I can't give her much, but her dad already does that. She doesn't even complain when I don't bring extravagant gifts. That's the problem, Victoria. I don't want your trashy life rubbing off on my daughter. It's already embarrassing that everyone knows Daniel's mom is a loser. If my daughter continues to have you in her life, she might end up like you. I want her to be successful like me and her father. I can't risk her becoming like you. You are being extremely shallow and unfair, Melissa. None of what you said will happen. My granddaughter needs her grandma in her life. You need family too, along with material wealth. She already has a set of good grandparents, Victoria. My parents are rich and come from a high-status family. Their love and influence will be perfect for my daughter. She doesn't need you in her life, and we don't need you in ours. We have plenty of money and connections to have a good life. I was fuming with what Melissa said. At that moment, I realized how messed up she was. No wonder my son was at the end of his wits. Since I didn't see Melissa much, I didn't know how shallow and superficial she could be. I was thankful I didn't have to deal with her more often, and it made me realize how miserable my son was living with her all the time. Everything Melissa said sealed my resolve to encourage my son to divorce her. With my mind made up, I smiled at Melissa and gently told her, I think you are a little wrong in your assumption, Melissa. My son has a lot of wealth, but from what I gather, you don't have a penny to your name. You're already drowning in credit card bills. What the hell do you mean? I'm married to Daniel, so his money is my money too. I have the right to his wealth. I'm his wife, after all. Well, you won't be his wife for long, Melissa. My son is going to file for divorce very soon. We remembered that you signed a prenup that clearly states you won't get anything in case of a divorce. Melissa looked scared for a moment before she schooled her expression back to normal. She looked at me nonchalantly, as if what I was saying was far-fetched and impossible. But I could tell she was nervous, especially because she knew Daniel had already warned her about a divorce if she didn't change her behavior. She dismissed me, saying, You can dream on. Victoria, Daniel would never divorce me. He can't be without me. I can control him well enough. Did you forget how I made him limit contact with you? Yes, you did throw a tantrum to make him limit contact with me, but he only agreed because he wanted to save his marriage with you. That was actually the first time it hit Daniel what a messed up woman you are. Over the years, your controlling behavior slowly made him consider divorce. Oh, he can consider divorce all he wants, Victoria. I know he will never go through with it. He won't destroy our perfect family and leave me destitute. You can believe what you want, Melissa. Don't say I didn't warn you. I'll leave today without seeing my granddaughter because I know I'll be able to see her soon. As soon as my son divorces you, I'll be back in her life. For now, I'll let you have this last power move. I turned to leave as Melissa went back into the house which soon wouldn't be hers anymore. I got into my car without any regret and called my son right away. When he picked up, he already sounded weary and resigned. Let me guess, Mom. Melissa didn't allow you to see my daughter. She did exactly what she wanted and took no consideration of mine or our daughter's feelings. You're right, Daniel. Apparently, she didn't want her loser mother-in-law to influence her daughter to live like a poor person. She thought cutting me off would spare your family from the humiliation of having a loser grandma like me. What the hell, Mom? She said that to you. Oh God, what's even wrong with her? I can't believe she would say those things to my own mother. I'm so sorry you had to hear that. I can assure you it's not true. You were the best mom and grandma ever. I don't think I'm the best mom or grandma, Daniel. I wasn't attentive enough to know how miserable you were in your marriage. If I had known, I wouldn't have advised you to give Melissa so many chances. I'm sorry for not being a better guardian. I guess you were right. Divorce would be a good move for you. Don't blame yourself, Mom. I was equally responsible for not telling you everything about my life and just going along with Melissa to keep the peace. That won't happen anymore. I will file for divorce today. I'm done being manipulated, and I'm done raising my daughter in a toxic household. We both deserve better. That night, Daniel showed up at my door with his clothes and brought my granddaughter along as well. He had filed for divorce and told Melissa about it. Apparently, Melissa lost her temper and started to attack Daniel for leaving her. She didn't want to get a divorce and lose Daniel's money, which she had been relying on. They started off having an argument until it escalated, and Daniel had to call the cops on his wife. Yes, she was hitting him in front of their daughter, who was crying her eyes out. My poor granddaughter was traumatized and was clutching my son because she was scared her father was hurt. What followed after that night was truly shocking. Melissa went to her parents for help to make Daniel stay. She didn't even have the money for a lawyer and thought her parents would help. Imagine her surprise when her parents closed the door in her face and told her to never contact them again. She had been disinherited a while back. Why did her parents take such a drastic step? They didn't support her entitled and abusive behavior. They were furious with her for hitting my son and traumatizing our granddaughter. Something else came out as well, which they told us and the CPS workers. Melissa was abusing my granddaughter. She was starving her because she didn't want her to get fat. And a lot of other things came out, and Melissa lost custody of her daughter. I won't go into detail about their messy divorce and all the details of abuse that came out in court. I'll just say that they were able to get divorced in a year. Melissa lost custody, and Daniel got my granddaughter full-time. I moved in with him to help out. Both Daniel and my granddaughter are in therapy, and my son actually had a protective order against Melissa for the physical abuse. Shortly before the divorce was finalized, Melissa showed up at my door to beg me for forgiveness. She wanted my help to get her marriage and child back. Suffice it to say, I kicked her out instantly. Right now, I'm having a good life with my son and granddaughter, who are happy to be rid of that horrible woman. It looks like we will be okay while Melissa is off working at a convenience store after losing everything and becoming the poor loser she didn't want to be.